Hello and welcome back to Unpopular Faith Convo, where we examine, elevate, and engage with the world through the lens of sound biblical truth. I'm your host, New Creation. Y'all, we have to talk about this. This is insane. Christianity Today wrote an article stating Jesus was not nailed to the cross. This assertion challenges traditional Christian beliefs and warrants a closer examination. In a recent article titled, "Was Jesus Crucified with Nails?" published by Christianity Today journalist Daniel S., discussed modern scholarly views on how crucifixion may have occurred. The article examined the methods used during Roman executions and how they related to the gospel narratives. However, the piece faced criticism for suggesting that the Bible doesn't describe Jesus being nailed to the cross. Here you can see I have attached two articles, one being that they stated a different interpretation that Jesus was not nailed to the cross, and we're going to talk about the apology. Christianity Today, Daniel, the original writer of this article, wrote how he apologized for overstating or misinterpreting, so forth. We're going to discuss on today's episode. On that note, recognizing the oversight, Christianity Today issued a correction and apology. They clarified it that scripture, including the Gospel of John, indicates that Jesus was crucified with nails and affirmed this account in line with Christian scholars and theologians throughout church history. The author, Daniel S., also apologized for the initial misrepresentation. I'm glad he did. We must hold people to accountability, especially when it is scripture that they've taken out of context. We don't want young believers to get in the wrong mix and go on with life thinking this is actually the event that took place. No, we want people of faith to actually get the sound biblical solid teachings, not misleading them. Let's turn to the scriptures. In the Gospel of John, after Jesus' resurrection, he appears to Thomas, who had doubted his return. Jesus says, "Put your fingers here, see my hands. Reach out your hand and put it into my side. Stop doubting and believe." John 20, verse 27. This is in the NIV. This passage indicates that Jesus bore physical wounds in his hands and side, consistent with crucifixion by nailing. Furthermore, in John 24, verse 39 through 40, Jesus tells his disciples, "Look at my hands and my feet. It is I myself. Touch me and see. A ghost does not have flesh and bones, as you see I have." He then shows them his hands and feet, again, emphasizing the physical marks of his crucifixion. Historically, crucifixion was a method of execution used by the Romans, involving nailing and binding the condemned to a cross. Archaeological finds such as the remains of a crucified man named Yohanan, discovered in Jerusalem, show evidence of nails used in crucifixion. This supports the biblical accounts of Jesus being nailed to the cross. The claim that Jesus was not nailed to the cross seems to stem from interpretations of the Greek word stauros, which some argue originally meant an upright stake. However, over time, stauros came to denote the cross as we understand in today, a structure with a crossbeam. The Romans were known to use various forms of crosses, including the traditional T-shape. Moreover, early Christian writings and traditionals consistently depict Jesus' crucifixion involving nails. The presence of nail wounds in his resurrected body, as described in the Gospels, further corroborates this. In light of the biblical narratives and historical evidence, the assertion that Jesus was not nailed to the cross lacks essential support. The scriptures clearly describe nail wounds and historical practices of Roman crucifixion align with this method. This commendable that Christianity today acknowledged their oversight and reaffirmed the traditional understanding of Jesus' crucifixion. This serves as a reminder of the importance of aligning our interpretation with scripture and historical context. Y'all, this is why it's so important for us to have sound biblical doctrine so we are not being misled by anyone and anything in life. I desire that for young believers who are starting to read the scripture and who are wanting the solid teachings, do so because you do not want to have your view mixed up. You want to be aligned with God. And the right way to do it is always refer back to scripture and read it in the context of the author. I like to call it hermeneutics thinking. Hey, thanks for joining me in this exploration. Stay tuned for more discussions on faith and theology. As always, live unashamedly for Christ, be both, and be the light to this world. Until next time, God bless.